I'll go ahead and get started. What a wonderful day, just a little bit cold, but at least the sun is shining, and nonetheless, we are so happy to be here with all of you today, showing strength for our veterans, supporting their needs, and doing all we can to recognize their sacrifice and commitment to our country. Welcome to the Veterans Park, where we honor those who have served in our military. This vast green space is a place for so many residents of Lexington to congregate, enjoying sporting activities, exercise, and to celebrate momentous occasions such as this. That is why we are here today, to celebrate and appreciate. Today, we meet along our new War Memorial Walk. This installation is a tribute to the veterans who served in the foreign wars over the past. The city has worked with the community groups, and to date, the pathway finished and memorials erected for the Korean and Vietnam Wars. In time, we will have educational signage and memorials for the World War I, World War II, and the Gulf and Afghan wars. It's the right thing to do for all of our veterans. Plus, it is important for our future generations to learn and experience what those conflicts were about and how it affected everyone, including those living right here in Lexington. Because let's be honest, just because a battlefield may take place across the oceans, the impacts reverberate to everyone's heart here at home. Now, in respect for so many who have given the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom, I would ask you to join me in a moment of silence while we reflect on their service. Thank you. Also, let's not forget a missing 17-year-old boy, Brogan Lorenz, who was last seen in Veterans Park. Please keep Brogan and his family in your thoughts. I know our public safety teams have been searching, and we hope for him to return home soon. Next, I'd like to ask veteran Bob Orbach to come and give this morning's invocation. Bob?
Good morning, everyone. With our voices hushed and our heads bowed, let us pray. Supreme ruler of the universe, God of battles and of peace, as we assemble this morning here at beautiful and cold Veterans Park to commemorate on this National Observance of Veterans Day the 99th anniversary of the signing of the armistice of November 11th, 1918. Marking the cessation of hostilities in World War I. We are united in tribute to those men and women of all races and backgrounds, of every faith and region, who answered their country's call and whose deeds are recorded on a multitude of battlefields at home and around the world. At this 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, we as veterans become increasingly aware of our proud tradition of service to our country, tempered by our sense of loss for those who gave their tomorrows so we could have our todays. Poor is the nation that has no heroes, Shameful is the nation that has them and forgets. And so today, as we honor the men and women who served and sacrificed under the banner of Old Glory during the many conflicts our great republic has endured, let us as Americans resolve that their service and sacrifice were not in vain, and that we be ever prayerful that the day is drawing near when there will be no more wars, when all our children and grandchildren will learn to live together as sisters and brothers in safety and in peace. May the power of our collective gestures at this place and hour transform just another date on the calendar into a renewal of spirit, engraving the words duty, honor, country into the hearts of those who remember. As together we say, Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Please, well, everybody's pretty much standing, but if you wouldn't mind to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. Thank you. Next, we have you can be seated. Next, we have a fantastic group of young students here with us. Seeing our youth come out for this event on a weekend gives me hope in the generation that respects the work of our veterans and what they've done for our country. And a special thanks to the parents for helping get your students to us today. Thank you so much. Performing our national anthem, please welcome the Veterans Park Elementary Chorus, directed by music teacher Johnny Bishop. Thank you again to the chorus. We'll be hearing another great song from them in just a little bit. Today, we will hear from several elected officials today, but I wanted to make sure to recognize those out in our audience today. I know several of my colleagues, Councilmember Richard Maloney, Councilmember Jennifer Scutchfield, Councilmember Fred Brown, Councilmember Angela Evans, and Councilmember Kathy Ploman. And I hope that I haven't and Councilmember James Brown. Thank you all so much for being here. And if there are any other elected officials, I believe, please don't, raise your hand. At least we can keep in motion to try to keep warm. So our first speaker today is no stranger to you all. He has served as mayor of Lexington since 2011, and we welcome Mayor Jim Gray.
Well, first things first, Susan, you have done a wonderful job of organizing this, and this is her birthday, so let's give her a hand for her birthday. Yes. On this chilly morning, you all, I am going to remember the 5 B's of public speaking. Be brief, brother, be brief. A quick story. Both my mother and father served in the U.S. Navy in World War II. I did not serve in the military, but between the ages of 5 and 7, I was persuaded by my father that I served with him in the U.S. Navy, that I had served in the Pacific on a PT boat with him, and I drove a truck over the Himalaya mountains. When I was 7, a friend of my mother's was sitting in our den. I was telling her stories about being with my father in the Navy, and she said to me, "Why, Jimmy, you couldn't have served in the Navy with your daddy. You weren't even born." Well, that was distressing, terribly distressing news for me. It was about equivalent of being told there was no Santa Claus. Now, we're here today to honor our veterans. So many of you who are here today are here for that same reason, families, friends. We have our veterans here. 18 years ago, in 1998, my mother, it was the 55th anniversary of the invasion of Normandy. And she had wanted to go to that, and so 4 of my brothers and sisters, we took her there. On the way over, we were in the airport. And my brother Franklin said, "Mother, did you know anybody at home in Glasgow, our hometown, who was lost in the war?" And she said, "Yes, a friend of mine, Powell Barlow." We got to Normandy, and we went to the cemetery, the American cemetery there, and we were walking along the rows of gravestones. And my brother looked over to her and he said, "Now, Mother, what was that boy's name?" And she said, "Powell Barlow." And he pointed over to a gravestone. We had found Powell Barlow's grave. The reason I tell that story is she told us never to forget that story and please to share it. And so that's what I'm doing today. I'm following those instructions. As I close, Susan gave me 2.5 or 3 minutes, and I hope I've not gone further than that. As I close, I want to say thank you again. Thanks for your service, those who are here, those who have passed and given the ultimate sacrifice, and those to the families, all of you who are here. Yes, God bless each and every one of you, our veterans, those who are serving today, our city, our state, and our country. Susan, thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mayor Gray. I always appreciate everybody coming out. Next in our program, although she was not able to be here today in person, Secretary of State Allison Lundgren Grimes wanted to make sure to have a representative from her office here today to talk about the importance of veterans and their opportunity to vote, even when in training, or deployed. Please welcome Assistant Secretary of State Lindsey Thurston.
Good morning, everyone. I, too, will be brief, Mr. Mayor, but what a beautiful day to be gathered here together to celebrate the service of all of those who have sacrificed for our great nation. We thank you, we honor you, and we love you. Secretary of State could not be here today, but again, my name is Lindsey Hughes Thurston. I have the honor of serving as your Assistant Secretary of State, and I have a letter to read to you from her. Fellow Kentuckians, it is my honor to join you in spirit as we celebrate the men and women who have bravely defended the United States. Thank you, Councilmember Lamb, and happy birthday, for welcoming my office here today. Kentuckians are blessed to have more than 330,000 veterans call the Commonwealth of Kentucky their home. Our families, our friends and neighbors who have served have protected our nation's most sacred rights and freedoms, including one of the most precious, the right to vote. Kentucky is undoubtedly better for your tireless service and continued commitment to our communities. I remain committed to standing up for the Commonwealth's veterans in Frankfort. In addition to my office's Vote in Honor of a Veteran and the first ever Kentucky Military Heroes Voting Initiative, I will again introduce Boots to Business legislation in the 2018 General Assembly session. This means waiving fees for veterans who seek to start businesses in Kentucky in our office. It's a very small but yet symbolic gesture just to tell them thank you and to help them do and follow their dreams. I am honored to serve as your advocate. I hope you will contact me in the future. Our doors are always open in Frankfort. Thank you for your selfless service, and may God bless you and your families. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Lindsay. We really appreciate you being here today. While we recognize our veterans, it is important to support them. Our next speaker understands this need. Congressman Andy Barr is a member of the National Guard and Reserves Components Caucus, National Guard Youth Challenge Caucus, Military Sexual Assault Prevention Caucus, and the the Congressional Veterans Job Caucus. His office has also formed the 6th District Veterans Coalition. With that, I would like to recognize and welcome Congressman Andy Barr.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you. Well, let me join everyone in wishing you a happy birthday and happy Veterans Day to everyone. Councilwoman Lamb, thank you so much for organizing this and being a leader and honoring our veterans. And to all the school children here, thank you for your beautiful rendition of our national anthem. And to Bob, thank you so much for that stirring invocation. And thank you for your service. To all of the veterans here, happy Veterans Day. And thank you so much for fighting to keep our nation free. We are blessed to live in a free country, but only because of the service and sacrifice of those of you here who have served in our nation's uniform. And 2017 is a particularly important year to celebrate Veterans Day because it's the 100th anniversary of the United States entry into World War I. It's also the 70th anniversary of the founding of the United States Air Force in 1947, when the Air Force became an official branch of the United States Armed Forces. And for the past 241 years, less than 1% of our nation's men and women have raised their right hand to answer our nation's most sacred call to duty. Whether it was fighting tyranny in World War II, and turning back Imperial Japan or the threat of the Nazis, whether it was defeating Soviet communism during the Cold War or today in the global war on terror. These men and women have fought to make our country the greatest nation in the history of the world, and that's to the credit of the men and women of the United States military. And if you'll indulge me, I want to just share with you personally a few veterans that mean a lot to me. All of you know veterans who are special to you. The veterans in my life that are special to me include my father, who was a Vietnam-era veteran in the United States Army Reserves. My wife's grandfather, who I had the privilege of meeting just once before his passing, was a paratrooper who helped lead the fight to liberate Corregidor in the South Pacific. My paternal grandfather, who suffered radiation exposure on a Navy destroyer in World War II in the Atlantic. And my maternal grandfather, who is a battlefield promoted colonel in New Guinea in the Philippines and rose to the level of Major General in the United States Army Reserves. These are family members that I have, that I know many of you have similar stories. We honor our family members who served to keep our freedom intact. And then I serve with some pretty amazing veterans in the United States House of Representatives. I want to just share one story of my colleague and friend Brian Mast. Brian is a freshman member of Congress, and he was a bomb disposal expert in Afghanistan. And he followed in his father's footsteps. His father was an Army veteran as well. And unfortunately, Brian suffered catastrophic injuries and lost both of his legs in Afghanistan. And when he came to at Walter Reed Hospital, his father was by his side. And what he said to Brian is that your service to your country is just beginning. And you're going to make your children proud of you, not just for the service that you have given and the sacrifice you have given in Afghanistan, but you're going to serve your country into the future and make a difference going forward. And finally, Corporal Matthew Bradford, who's going to be one of the marshals at today's parade downtown. Corporal Bradford is just an amazing guy. He's the newest member of our congressional team, who through the Congressional Wounded Warriors Fellowship Program is my National Security Fellow. And Matthew distinguished himself in just an amazing way. He's the first ever blind double amputee to ever be allowed to re-enlist in the United States Marine Corps, and his focus now is to continue that service to our country, serving the veterans in the 6th Congressional District Veterans Coalition. So to all of those individuals who are important in my life and to the life of this community, to all of you veterans who are here, and to your family members who you honor here today, thank you, God bless you, and God bless our veterans.
Thank you so much, Congressman Barr. Our next speaker serves as the Commissioner of the Kentucky Department of Veterans Affairs, General Norman R. Flack. Has a long and distinguished military career. He served as an enlisted soldier from 1970 prior to completing an officer candidate school in 1975. He is a graduate of Armor Officer Course Basic and Advanced, Command and General Staff Officer Course, and the U.S. Army War College, and served in staff and command positions, commensurate with his rank. His most notable awards and decorations include Army Commendation Medal, the Army Achievement, the Army Reserve Component Achievement Medal, the Armed Forces Reserve Medal, the Army Service Medal, the National Defense Service Medal, and the Meritorious Service Medal. General R. Flack rose to the rank of Brigadier General after 4 decades in the Kentucky National Guard. During a distinguished civilian career, he has served as Executive Director of the National Guard of Association of Kentucky and as a member and Vice Chair of the Board of Directors of the National Guard Association of the United States. With that, we welcome Commander R. Flack.
Well, thank you, Linda. And as you all might know, this has been a really busy week in the Kentucky Department of Veterans Affairs, and that's about the 7th or 8th time I've heard that bio. And Kelly, Monday we're going to abbreviate that because it pales in comparison to what a lot of these great Americans have done here. And I've just been very fortunate to be allowed to serve this great nation in a number of different capacities and with a lot of great people. And Mayor, Congressman, it's such an honor to share the podium with you all here today. And as I said earlier, the good thing about being the last speaker is I could quite easily just say what they said and sit down. But given the fact I am a general officer in the United States Army, that's not going to happen, as you're well aware. But just a couple of observations that I did make on the way over here. This is my 3rd opportunity to be here in Veterans Park, and what a beautiful place this is. And I think it's somewhat symbolic of the weather we've experienced as we've been here. My first opportunity was we dedicated the Gold Star Memorial. More recently, we were here for the Korean Monument, and then now today. And of those, we've seen different seasons. The cold weather, I think, is exemplary and reminiscent of what soldiers of Korea endured at frozen Chosin Reservoir. I think we've also been here in the heat of the day when our soldiers from Iraq and Afghanistan endured just grueling heat and high humidity, 120 degrees. My son was there in the middle of the summer, and he says, you know, Dad, they say that it's a dry heat, you don't notice it. And he said, well, I'm going to throw the BS flag on that one as well. And then also, I think all we need next is probably to be here in the monsoon, and that way we'll have Vietnam covered as well. So all of that, and I realize it's cold out here, and I say all what I say, the discomfort that we feel here today is just a moment passing in time. and minimal compared to what the sacrifices these great Americans around you and across this great nation have endured throughout wars from World War I to 1918 through the Afghan, Iraqi wars and what we're doing yet today. And as I stand here today as a veteran, proud American, I want to say how much I appreciate what all of you have done. Not only the sacrifices you have made, but also the sacrifices your family has made. And all too often we forget that we could not do what we do, would not be able to accomplish what we've accomplished were it not for our parents, our sisters, brothers, and most specifically our spouses. So thank you to the veterans, thank you to the families, thank you all for hosting this here today. God bless you and God bless America.
Thank you, Commissioner. Finally, I want to welcome back our Veterans Park Elementary Chorus to sing a tribute to the armed forces. Thank you, thank you, thank you. What a great group of kids, and I know they're freezing to death too. So I want to ask that if you are a veteran, please, if you're already standing, hold your hand up, but if you're sitting, please stand up so we can be recognized. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You know, our city has taken great strides in increasing veterans' care, support, and awareness, but there's always a lot more to do. Helping with physical and mental health care, going out of your way to employ veterans, and making sure we're honoring their service. Don't forget, today at 2 p.m. is Lexington's Veterans Parade. It's downtown, and thank you for coming out today. Please continue to enjoy the hot coffee and the hot chocolate. Talk to your fellow veterans today. God bless you, and God bless our country. Thank you.